Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the GDE and GS1 Standards in Healthcare presentation from North East Ambulance Service. I'm Katie Wardle, and I work as part of the GDE Learning Network team at Arden and Gems CSU. I'm delighted to be introducing George Lawton from GS1, Lynne Hodgson and Paul Nicholson from North East Ambulance Service to you today, who will be taking us through their presentation. We've allowed time for questions at the end of the session, which you can send to me using the chat function, which you can find at the top right-hand side of your screen. And also use that if you have any difficulties connecting to the presentation throughout the session. I'll hand over now to George, Lynne and Paul to take us through our presentation. As I say, just let me know if you have any questions via the chat function to Katie Wardle. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody, and I would like to thank you very much for taking the time to join us on this webinar. My name is George Lawton, and I am the Engagement Manager for the North at GS1 UK. GS1 are supporting trusts to uniquely identify every patient, every product and every place using GS1 standards. GS1 standards create a common language that underpins systems and processes to improve operational efficiency, reduce clinical variation and improve patient safety. I am delighted to introduce Lynne Hodgson and Paul Nicholson from the North East Ambulance Service, who are now going to share their GDE programme and how the programme and GS1 standards are aligned. Over to you, Lynne and Paul.
Good afternoon. Okay, so you've got myself and Lynne Hodgson here. We're just going to talk through really North East Ambulance Services sort of journey on the global digital exemplar, and it is very early in the days of our start, but hopefully we'll give you a bit of an insight into the ambulance world and what a global digital exemplar might look like, and also one of the areas that Georgie there just spoke about in terms of GS1 and how that fits into some of our plans moving forward. Okay, just to set the scene a bit, hopefully this presentation should only take about 15-20 minutes, and we'll leave some time at the end for questions. So I'd like to really just go through a bit background about NAS. Our journey here, which included our development of a local digital roadmap, the GDE progress to date, our full proposal, all the different projects in there, the two key ones which I think are very relevant to this area, which are RFID tagging and barcoding, and then how this all joins up within our overall GDE project, and then a bit about the timelines at the end. Okay, so a bit of background about North East Ambulance Service. So we cover Northumberland, Tyne-and-Wear, Durham and Teesside, for those that might not know the area around here. That covers 9 acute hospitals, 2 of which are MPCs. We cover that with about 60 locations, many stations, covering a population of around about 2.6 million people, over 3,200 square miles. And we deal with around about 400,000 999 or urgent incidents and over 1 million patient transports per year. We do that with around about 500 vehicles travelling on average over 10 million miles per year. Back in our contact and control centres, which we have 2 of, we have around about 250 call-taking positions, and we deal with around about 1.5 million calls per annum, which is on the increase as well. We deliver 999, 111, GP urgent, patient transport and health protection agency calls, and we deal with around about 2,500 staff across the whole of the trust. So that's a bit about the trust, for those that didn't know about us. I'd next like to just talk a bit about our sort of, I guess, our journey through the local digital roadmap, some of the challenges which we sort of put back to the centre and NHS Digital around why ambulance services could be included in the likes of GDEs. And often some of the challenges that we have is around the geography that we cover. So LDRs themselves weren't actually requirements specifically for ambulance services, but we took the opportunity there to basically take the tools such as the digital maturity assessment and sort of measure ourselves against that and identify the gaps. We then actually sent that off to all of the DCGs who did have to put the digital roadmaps in, and some of them included some of our stuff in there. So hopefully that got the attention from the centre, and several months later we actually got approached by the centre to start thinking about how what a GDE might look like for ambulance services. So it all really kicked off from, I guess, the aftermath of the emergency and urgent care review. And at the time there was, even though I say 3 here, there was actually 4 ambulance services identified which might be, how would I say this nicely, suitable to become a GDE moving forward. The approach with ambulance services was a bit different as it has been to acute or mental health trusts, whereas we didn't have to bid with everybody else against it. There was a criteria set, and there was only 4 ambulance services which met that criteria. The main sort of areas that the criteria looked at was, did you have an active electronic patient care record, so that was fully deployed? Did you have financial stability? Had you done a digital maturity assessment, and was that of a reasonable standard? And would you agree your control totals for the next financial year? So we met those criteria, as did what we thought at the time 4 other ambulance services, but then due to different changes, only 3 ambulance services actually were found to be able to meet that criteria towards the end. So about this time last year, we started to sit down with NHS Digital and look at some of the things which would make GDEs good for ambulance services. We pulled together a proposal during the back end of last year that was approved in principle, and then over the last several months we've actually been working on the full-blown sort of funding agreement, and I'm happy to say that last week we actually got the final approval for that funding agreement, so from our perspective there, all systems are go from now on. Okay. So our GDE, we've built the GDE on these sort of 5 pillars of foundation which are made in that. So we already have quite a strong IT and technological infrastructure. It does really sit at quite the heart of most of the things that we do within the organisation. And we, rather than reinvent things, we want to integrate and build on those existing systems and processes. But the main aims that we want to do is interoperate with the wider health system and allow that seamless transfer of data and sharing of information across all the settings. We also have lots of information. We collect lots of information. Every time a vehicle moves, every 15 seconds, we know where that is. So we actually generate lots and lots of information. But what we need to be is a bit more smarter about what we do with that information. And also we have quite a lot of assets which are spread over those 3,500 square miles that I mentioned earlier on. So we need to be really on the ball with looking after those and just making sure we're getting the most out of them. Okay, so our GDE consists of 17 projects, and it's a 3-year program of work, which we start next month. So actually, this is I don't expect you to read it all, but this is the overall table of the project. These were really defined by working with our staff and our patients to ensure that we've captured the challenges which ambulance services face. We're also working quite closely with the other ambulance GDE sites. So we have a full portfolio of all the challenges. So this is not all the challenges ambulance services have. Fortunately, the 2 other GDE sites are picking up some of the other ones, but we work really closely with them to ensure that what they're working on actually fits in with what we want to do, and we can help shape theirs, they help shape ours. So it's all very good working with other ambulance services, but actually locally we actually need to collaborate very closely with other acute hospitals and other providers in the area, and also working in partnership with suppliers to understand and shape the future challenges and solutions. So the ones I've actually highlighted here are not all the ones I'm going to talk about in detail, but you'll see how these join in later on when I come to the joining the bit. I've gone backwards there, sorry. Okay, so the two main projects I'm going to talk about are our RFID and our barcoding project. So the first one is about our equipment RFIDing. So our concept here, and I say the word concept, we're at a bit further stage with the RFID one where we actually have two trial sort of solutions in place at the moment, or one trial at the moment and one just about to start. And I'll talk about why we're doing two at the moment. But the main idea for RFIDing is for equipment that we keep in the back of an ambulance. A lot of it's high value, large size, but it's very important that we have that whole set of equipment before we go off and do a job. In effect, if some of that equipment is not available in the vehicle, it would stand the vehicle down until that equipment can be replaced. Historically, we've also had occasions where we have equipment missing, or when people have actually arrived on the scene, we've found out that either the equipment was missing or was actually out of calibration, which causes us other problems, having to get second response there to actually do some of this work. So what we're actually trying to look at here is to put what's similar to when you go to the supermarket, an RFID tagging system into the vehicle. So some of the challenges we have with this sort of solution is that at any one time there's probably around about 100 ambulances on the road at any one time in the northeast. So each of those becomes a little bit of a supermarket in themselves. So some of the solutions that we've looked at are very good for the likes of supermarkets, but not very good in a sort of remote setting. So we've approached a couple of suppliers and they've both come back with some proof of concept, and some of them actually build on our existing equipment that we have in the vehicle. So the idea behind this one is, some of the considerations we're having with this at the moment is there are two types really of RFID tagging that can be done. One of them, one is passive, and one of them known as active tags. Basically what it means is one of the tags is a lot bigger than the other, but the actual equipment to receive the information from the tags is a lot smaller than the other. So you get a trade-off from one to the other. With an active tag, what it means is the tag actually generates a signal itself. With a passive tag, it relies on the receiver to actually induce the tag to make that signal. And basically what that means is there's a lot bigger equipment needed for the passive tagging, because it has to generate basically the signal, the induction of a signal. Some of the other things that we're considering at the moment, how we will solve these challenges around the administration of these sort of solutions. What we need and what we try to do with all of our solutions is we should make things easier for staff rather than actually adding additional complications. So the concept of this whole solution is that this will fit in with their existing equipment on the vehicle. So basically, if I can walk through a simple scenario, when a paramedic gets off a vehicle, he takes his kit bag, he'll take a drugs bag and take a defibrillator, he might take a stretcher, he might take a spinal board, might take several bits of equipment off the vehicle. Now at the side of the road, sometimes those can be left, or actually at hospital those can be left. So the idea of the RFID tagging is that it is basically an inventory on the vehicle that's always being monitored. So when you take this kit off the vehicle, if you were looking at the screens within the vehicle, it would say that those bits of kit are off the vehicle. The idea being though that once you get back on the vehicle, if you haven't brought that equipment on and you try to move away, it will say to you, either way, you've left X, Y, or Z. And that actually might be okay under certain circumstances, like I mentioned the spinal board there. Often in hospital, we may well leave the spinal board with the patient if it will allow us to get out of the hospital quicker. We would subsequently then pick that spinal board up, but what often happens is it gets mixed up with their spinal boards. So what this actually allows us to do is we know that we've left that spinal board at that location. So we can send somebody else at a later time to go and pick that up from there. So that's pretty much the RFID tagging approach that we're looking at. Some of the benefits that we're looking in there are detailed there. I'm not going to talk through them all. Benefits realization is at its early stages, to say the least, at the moment. But I think just with any of the likes of the GS1 tagging and that whole approach, the benefits should be pretty much similar to what we would see in the wider health system, and more, I think, probably more traditional types of approaches to applying these standards. I think the only difference with us is really it's on a wider geographical scale. Might not be on as many things tagged, but it's on a wider geographical scale. So moving on to the next project, which is ePCR barcoding. ePCR is our electronic patient care record. So as I mentioned earlier, to sort of qualify to become a GDE, we have to have an active electronic patient care record. So this we have in place now. We use a tablet called a GTAC, and this is actually a picture of the GTAC here. And one of the nice features of the GTAC, and we actually specified this 2 years ago when we bought these, so it was a bit forward thinking from us, was we wanted actually barcode scanning capabilities built into it. So what you can't see on here is, but at the very top of this, there's a little button on the top, and there's a full 3D barcode scanner that actually comes from the side of the device. And as you can see, you hold this device very much like a handbag or like a tablet as you would normally use, so it works really well. One of the aims that we have here is our ePCR basically records everything we do with the patient when we're on scene. So any observations, anything to do with the mechanics of any injuries or anything like that. And it also allows us to record any drugs or any interventions that we do with the patient. Just as you would in a hospital or in a normal setting, there's lots of different ways in which you record drug administration and recording. In the vehicle, at the moment, what we do with that is we select from a list, drop-down lists for different drugs. All this approach we do here is basically just automate some of that approach. So in effect, we will be able to scan the drugs which we're about to administer. Some of the benefits that gives us there is the potential to actually batch trace some of those drugs for any recalls that might be ongoing with them. It also gives us the opportunity to present to the paramedic any alerting about the dosage. If it's child doses that we're trying to give to an adult, not so bad, but possibly the other way around is not good. If that actually is out of date, and also from a stock control perspective, also gives us the opportunity to actually manage that stock a bit better on the vehicle. And that all sounds really good in that light, but I think we have to be quite realistic about how that actually fits into the workflow within an ambulance. So often our boys and girls out there on the front line will come into situations where this just may not be appropriate, or they just won't have time to actually do this. So one of the things that we've looked at in looking at this solution is retrospective entry through barcode as well. So as long as you keep the container that you originally administered with, you'll be able to retrospectively scan that sort of stuff as well, come on back in. So the process alignment, I think, is really, really important in this one, because we already know that sometimes it's not practical for the crews to fill in the ePCR as it is now. So actually adding the ability to scan just may not be possible under certain circumstances. Administration and monitoring is something that we'll have to keep a close eye on throughout the implementation and ultimately the rollout. Again, benefits very similar to the previous ones. I think there's a common theme about the benefits for anything to do with barcoding or tagging and remote tracking. So how does this align really with the core sort of standards that set out with the GS1 programs? We looked at the patient identification element. Now, this is sort of like number one of the core standards. And what we're sort of steered away from is trying to print anything within a vehicle. So one of the options we could have had with this was to actually produce a barcode in the vehicle to put on the wrist of the patient. However, probably a considerable amount of expense put into that, and also vehicle printers are not the nicest things that actually go in portable printers. So at this point, we're not considering that. We do capture the NHS number, so we don't see that as a blocker there. We just do it face to face or actually in the control room, so that's already digitally captured, and ultimately that will be passed on to the hospital at point of transfer. Catalogue management, so the second area of the core standards. We're looking really here at the use of the Dictionary of Medicine and Devices as our core dictionary for use of drugs and any equipment that we might use in the vehicle. So the idea will be that on a time basis we will pull down the latest version of that and repopulate all of our core base data for that. So any medicines and any changes to our drugs list that we use will be automatically updated across all the vehicles. There is obviously a side issue about the whole stock, which will need to be updated on a regular basis at the same time. And the final core standard is location numbering. So bit of a different approach here to the sort of traditional different ward sort of identification. We could identify the vehicle itself as a separate location, or does it really add any value there? We do, as part of the electronic patient record, capture that information anyway. We just don't assign it a barcode, basically. We could, but is it going to add any value really at this point? However, the equipment tracking and the maintenance we do see as very key to what we want to do here. So this is very much about tracking that equipment within the vehicle or outside of the vehicle, and then linking that to its maintenance schedule. So whilst a spinal board doesn't get maintained much, it does actually get checks every so often, and we have to make sure that straps aren't worn. But the key areas are the likes of the defibrillators, which have quite stringent maintenance routine on them, and we just need to know where those vehicles are. Paramedics are very good at actually taking a piece of kit and put it on a different vehicle. If they can't find that kit on their vehicle, or their bit of kit needs maintenance, they will swap it over, which is great for keeping those vehicles on the road. It actually makes the maintenance team's jobs a bit of a nightmare trying to find all of this equipment. So we're hoping that that will actually help some of that. So joining it all up, these are basically some of the other key projects within our GDE proposal, and I'm mentioning these because I think you'll probably see how these fit in to the wider picture of what I've just spoken about. So project one is actually our NHS number rebirth, so to speak. What this means is we want to capture the NHS number at every opportunity we have. Historically, within ambulance services, this is quite a challenging area to do because often the patient or the caller doesn't know the full details about the patient. Then on scene, it may not be appropriate. But what we're certainly doing is we're giving our staff the ability to capture that and to actually search for that at each of those touch points. So the touch points will be in the control room and also at the patient's side. So our ePCR and our climate control systems, as part of the GDE, will be fully NHS number enabled. And just 2 weeks ago, or might be a month ago now, we actually managed to get our command and control system certified for doing full line access, so we can actually do full line searches now for patients. And that is going to be rolled out as well onto the ePCR over the coming. Second area that we really need to do some work on, and I think the wider NHS is a bit further down this path than us, because this is all very new to us, is SNOMED coding. So one of our projects is about fully SNOMED coding the whole of ambulance activity. We've worked with the department health to try and set some standards and to work with, and because certainly when we've looked at that, there's some things in here that aren't the norm, but they can certainly be coded moving forward. And then we'll come to where I mentioned the transfer of care. which actually wants to pass this information on to a receiving location. Not always a hospital these days, but we want a common standard to be able to transfer information. So we're not retyping stuff into the hospital systems. We've captured it once, passed it on. And hopefully to do all that, we will be introducing an integration engine into the trust, which transfer of care may in its first phase be direct point-to-point sort of integration, so we can understand exactly what that need is. But ultimately, this will all be done through an integration engine to really enforce that information sharing approach. Really at the end now, you'll be glad to hear. So we're up to just fundamentally to give you some context of the timelines that we've got. So for our RFID and our initial proposal, we were starting this project in June 2018, so we should have started this. Actually, we have really. We've took a bit of a step, and like I said, we've got 2 systems. We've certainly got one on trial at the moment, and we're working very closely with another supplier to actually get the second, so we can compare passive and active tagging. Our aim is to go live in December 2018 across the trust for RFID tagging. Barcoding is going to take a bit longer, so how we've sort of phased this is once that finishes the RFID, we'll start the barcoding. So that's due to start in January 2019, and again, hopefully we'll go live in around about November 2019. That's quite a long time, that one, because that's the one that we really need to train the staff and bring the staff on board with. And as I'm sure you can imagine, trying to train now on 2,000 frontline staff on an already tight training budget and tight training schedule is no mean feat. So that pretty much takes us to the end of where we are. So I'll open the floor now to any questions you might have.
That's great, thanks Paul. It's really good to see the ambulance services coming online and linking in together to start making changes and the improvements part of their GDE programme. So thanks ever so much for kicking that off on behalf of the ambulance service and showing us what you've done on GS1. We've just had the one question that's come through at the moment for you. So we've been asked, will you be reviewing your processes with drug administration when the Falsified Medicines Directive becomes mandatory?
I'm going to say yes. Obviously, we're at the very early stages of this, and that'll be moving forward with certainly with the barcoding element. That will have heavily involvement with our medicines people here at North East Ambulance Service and our pharmacists, which we use to understand that. We work a bit differently to hospitals, so we work very much. I can't remember the word, but PDQs, I think they're called, which are sort of pre-prescribed types of drugs. So we don't have full autonomy like hospital doctors do, where they can administer anything. We have very much a tight list of drugs which we can administer. Right.
Great. Thank you very much. So that was the only question that's come through. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Thank you to George, Paul and Lynne for giving us their presentation today. We'll be putting the slides and the recording both on the NHS Futures platform, so that should be there within the next week so everybody can go in there and access it. If you've got any further questions that you think of, please feel free to get in touch with the GDE Learning Network and we can send those on for response. And also we'd love to have your feedback on the session, so we'll be sending out a SurveyMonkey questionnaire in due course for you to respond to. And if there's anybody on the line that'd like to share any work that you've been doing, please feel free to get in touch and we can arrange that with you. So finally, thank you Paul, thanks Lynne and thanks George, and we shall speak to everybody again soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.